You spent 3 hours building the perfect workflow in Notion, color coded everything, created templates, set up automations, felt like a productivity genius. And you used it for exactly like 2 days, maybe. And now it's collecting digital dust while you're back to scrambling through a million browser tabs and sticky notes. I get it. I totally get it. But the problem here is that most business systems are built for brains that can remember to maintain them. And ADHD brains, that's just not us. We don't work like that. You don't need more complex systems. You need systems so simple that they work even when your brain is at 30% capacity. And that is what we're talking about building today. Let's dive into it.
Yo. Yes. Yo. Yo, it's Elise, say it right, no cap. ADHD CEO, yeah, we run this track. Systems that slap, brains built different. We make sales in our sleep, yeah, the hustle's efficient. This ain't fluff, nah, this is strategy raw for the ADHD. Minds breaking every old law. Hit subscribe, don't miss a single show. We're running on dopamine, let's go. Let's go.
I know you. Okay. I know you probably better than you know yourself. And so I am going to just take a wild guess at what's happened with your business system so far. You've tried project management tools, Asana, Trello, ClickUp, Notion. You set them up beautifully and then never open them again. Or maybe you've created SOPs and processes that require 17 steps and 3 apps to complete, and you followed them like once, maybe twice. You've automated things that didn't need automation while manually doing things that should be automated months ago. And the worst part is that you keep blaming yourself. Like, I just need more discipline. I just need to stick with it. Other people can maintain systems. Why can't I? But here's what nobody tells you. The problem isn't you. The problem is that neurotypical business systems you assume will work don't. Okay. You have consistent executive dysfunction. And it's very common for ADHD entrepreneurs to not have a reliable working memory. And the ability to follow those multi step processes without getting distracted is almost impossible on most days. Our brains don't work that way. Okay. We need systems that are so simple, they're almost embarrassingly basic. Systems that work when we forget they even exist. Systems that don't require us to remember how to use them. I want to talk about the stories you're kind of telling yourself about systems and organization, because in order for me to help you create the proper systems that you need, and that's exactly why I built the ADHDpreneur Academy, we really have to understand those beliefs that you're telling yourself. And look, I'm not a mindset coach, I'm not a life coach, but I will tell you that mindset is everything in entrepreneurship. And so you have to kind of address those limiting beliefs that you have so that you can overcome those before you create systems. Because if you just go into doing the actual physical work, the tactical stuff, and you still have those old limiting beliefs following you, it's not going to work. You're going to fall back into the same pattern. One thing that I see very commonly is entrepreneurs telling themselves, I'm too disorganized. And you probably convinced yourself that you're just not a systems person, right? That organized, streamlined business are for people whose brains work differently than yours. But ADHD brains actually need systems more than neurotypical brains do. We just need different kinds of systems. And so again, inside ADHDpreneur Academy, we really focus on building what I call dopamine driven systems that do the work for you instead of requiring you to do the work to maintain the system. Because it's not that you're too disorganized for systems, you've just been using the wrong ones. And so right now, you probably are disorganized. You probably do have a bunch of chaos in your life. You probably feel like you thrive in it at this point. But it's not that you can't get organized, it's that you're doing it the wrong way. Another thing that I often see is the more features equals better systems trap. Okay. So that is a belief that the more robust and feature rich a system is, the better it must be. But that's a very common misbelief because systems don't equal software. So one of the most common questions I get is like, what softwares do you recommend? Okay. Well, a software is only as good as the process you put into it. And so you pick kind of the tool with the most capabilities, thinking that it'll solve all your problems, but you don't have a system or a SOP. And SOP, for those of you that don't know, stands for standard operating procedures. I had that question a couple weeks ago and I was like, got to turn my corporate brain off for a minute and teach that because I would have thought everybody knew that. My mistake. But you end up spending more time trying to figure out the tool you'll actually use instead of using it to run your actual business. And so our ADHD brains just do better with boring, simple tools that do one thing really well. So a Google Doc will be a fancy project management system if you actually will use the Google Doc better. And so I love automations. That is like my entire jam, but you have to have the process laid out step by step in order to tell the automation what to do properly, in order to tell the project management tool what to do properly. Another thing that I see very often is like, I just need to try harder, right? We beat ourselves up with this productivity hustle culture lie that every time a system fails, you think it's a willpower problem. If you just had more discipline, you'd maintain the system. If you just tried harder, you'd remember to update it. But systems that require consistent effort from our ADHD brains are doomed to fail. Not because we're lazy, but because our brains literally don't have reliable access to the executive function required to maintain something that complex. And I'm not calling you dumb by any means. Okay. I'm very smart. I'm a very smart person. But for me, if it's so complex, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even want to do it. Okay. So this is why I actually created Focused and Free, my monthly membership, so that we design systems that work with executive dysfunction, not against it. Systems that assume you'll forget, assume you'll get distracted because you will, or disappear for a week. And they kind of keep running anyway. And so in the membership, we focus on things like building the processes of the system. So, like, how do you create content? What do your email workflow? What do your follow up systems look like? What are you doing on a daily basis? Your DMO, and then in the academy, we actually plug those into your business and build them together. But I want to really talk about what the business world teaches us about systems that really do set us up for failure. So that automate everything pressure. Again, I am an automation guru. I love automation. I could talk about it all day. But, work smarter, not harder, set it and forget it. They really do skip that part where setting up automation often requires executive function you don't have or have on every single day. And so over automation can make your business feel robotic and disconnected. Not every single thing needs to be automated. Some things work better with simple manual processes, but the goal here isn't maximum automation. It's maximum effectiveness with minimum cognitive load. And so that is something that, again, if you shut down every time you try to automate everything, you need to take a step back and really look at, okay, what do I need to automate first? And I always recommend to my clients to automate what are you least likely to do on your own, right? What is the thing that really just drains your energy? Start with that. Another myth is document everything. So business coaches really tell you to create SOPs for everything. I'm going to tell you, you do need a process for most things. Okay. But for me, I don't necessarily reference it as documentation because ADHD brains either remember how to do something in the moment or we figure it out from scratch. Unfortunately, sometimes again, but documentation only helps if it's so simple you can reference it in like 30 seconds or less. So what I like to do, I love voice memos. Okay, I've got 1,000 voice memos on my phone, and I actually use an app called Voice Pen. And that app just like explodes my voice memos because I can do a voice memo in Voice Pen. It gives me the key takeaways, the highlights, any action items I gave myself. And so it creates the SOP from my voice memo. Boom, done. Okay. And then another myth or fantasy, I guess I see, is that one system to rule them all. And so there's this idea that you need, one central system where everything lives, one tool that handles everything. And there are a lot of all-in-ones that are amazing. I personally use Automate and Elevate, and it does do most things. But trying to force everything into one system usually means it can compromise somewhere else. And so what I mean by this is Automate and Elevate does everything from my landing pages, my web pages. It's where I collect all my payments, my emails, SMS, all that. But I don't particularly love the way I plan content in it because I'm a visual person. So I've had multiple people that are like, why are you using Metrical? Why are you using Trello? And I'm like, I just don't love the way that that functions and it doesn't work for me. So I will always tell you that having all of your sales tasks and sales pages and all of that in one place, yes, that is a massive benefit. But sometimes the best system is maybe 3 simple tools that do something really well rather than one complex tool that does everything mediocrely. And a lot of people love Automate and Elevate's. Automate and Elevate is a Go High Level platform. So if you're using any kind of Go High Level, a lot of people love that planning for the social media. I don't love the social media part of it. I don't. I think Metrical is 10 times easier to use. And I like to visually plan my content out in Trello. So I do use additional systems, and I'll put links in the show notes to all of this because most of these have some sort of free plan that you can use too, which is an added bonus. But that breakthrough moment for me really came when I stopped trying to build systems that made me look professional and started building systems that actually worked with my brain. I tried all the fancy project management tools, and somehow I always wind back up in like a simple Google sheet. Stop trying to automate everything super complex and threw out anything that was like a 17-step process. And I just replaced it really simply with do this, then do that. And then my system started to stick. And once I got something to stick, then I could build on that. But that again, that's what I build inside the ADHDpreneur Academy is literally embarrassingly simple systems that actually get used instead of impressive systems that collect dust. So I'm going to give you a really quick framework here that you can use. And this is what I would say a very simple ADHD friendly business system looks like. Strategy number one, the if this, then that rule. So complex systems fail because they require you to remember multiple steps in a sequence. And so instead of every Monday, check my project management tool, review tasks, prioritize schedule blocks, update status, blah, 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 try this. When a client pays, automatically send onboarding email. When someone DMs me ready, they automatically get the sales link. If this, then that systems don't require memory or executive function. And we actually use this a lot with kids, which is crazy. But like with a child, if you're trying to teach them that they can earn a reward from doing a chore, I know my son did this a lot in therapy. If this, then you get this, right? So try to pick one task that you do repeatedly and turn it into that automated trigger. And you can use a lot of tools. Make.com is a really good one. Or if you have an all-in-one, like Automate and Elevate, a lot of times the automation's already built in. The next strategy I would recommend that you plug into is the maximum 3-step rule. So any system that requires more than 3 steps is probably going to fail for an ADHD brain. So look at your current systems. How many steps are in there? If there's more than 3, simplify this, okay? So for example, your content creation system shouldn't be research, outline, write, edit, format, schedule, create graphics, write captions, finalize hashtags, cross post. Write the thing, post the thing, do the thing, right? Either it gets automated, batched separately, or eliminated. Period. But this is the core of what we teach inside Focused In Free Membership, that ruthless simplification until systems are too simple to fail. So look at your current processes, count the steps. If there's more than 3, probably not a good idea. Strategy number 3 here is the build for 30% brain capacity. So your system should work even at your worst, not just your best, because there's going to be days where your brain feels like mush. And when you can barely remember to eat lunch, your systems need to be able to function on those days too. So this means like verbal instructions, not just written, checklists, not memory, automations that run without you, templates for everything, visual cues and reminders. I keep like a brain dead protocol document. I'm not even kidding. To where like, even when I'm completely fried, I know exactly what to do. And so I'm never stuck choosing between working or giving up for the day. And that just helps with my momentum and my confidence. So kind of create you a brain dead protocol for like one important task. Write it out like you're explaining it to yourself on your very worst day. Strategy number 4 is the external brain system. So ADHD brains have terrible working memory. So stop trying to remember things. Okay. It's just not going to work. You know, it's not going to work. Okay. Build that external memory instead. So it's not about fancy tools. It's about having one place where everything lives that you don't have to remember to check because it reminds you. So it could be a combination of like Google Calendar and a Google Doc. Tool doesn't matter. What matters is it's simple enough you actually use it inclusively. And so build this somewhere that you will check every day and it will give you reminders. Trello is another really good option for this. And then strategy number 5, okay, automation should make your life easier. So try the lazy automation approach. If setting up automation tasks takes more effort than just doing the damn task, skip it. Start with simple automations like auto responders or email templates, save replies, scheduling tools, then build on that. Don't get into the complex workflows with like Zapier and multiple apps until you're super comfortable and you're like nerdy about it, like me. And so try setting up one stupid, simple automation. Just pre-schedule your content for the week. Boom, done. So I'm going to give you a few quick implementation strategies and we're going to call it a day. So for client management, try simple spreadsheets. I also love Trello. And then of course, I love Automate and Elevate. So try 3 columns, waiting, active, complete, or lead, purchased, customer. For content systems, create one batch template and reuse it over and over and over. Stop trying to reinvent your content system every week. For financial tracking, go find a financial person. I'm not your best. I use QuickBooks. Boom, done. My CPA said that's what I needed. And then for task management, keep some sort of living management system. So I do love ClickUp, but also Google Docs or Notion, and then delete the task when they're done. But if I were you, I would definitely get on the wait list for Flow First Thinking, my book coming out later this year, because I'll be really diving into a lot of these specific frameworks. And then, of course, I teach these inside ADHDpreneur Academy. So the secret isn't finding the perfect tool or building the perfect process. It is building systems so simple that they work even when you forget they exist. So stop trying to maintain complex systems and start building lazy ones that maintain themselves. A simple system you'll actually use beats a perfect system that stays in your head. So before you go, I want you to pick one system you're going to simplify this week, just one. And if this episode gave you permission to simplify, I want you to share it with another ADHD entrepreneur who's drowning in overcomplicated systems. And of course, if you're ready to build systems that actually stick, I want you to join us inside ADHDpreneur Academy, where we build lazy systems together, dopamine driven systems. Your business doesn't need perfect. Okay. It needs systems that work with your brain. So make sure you check the show notes for links to everything that I recommended for more information that will help you execution wise. And as always, if you got any value out of this episode at all, please leave us a review. It is the absolute best compliment you can give. And until next time, make it simple, make it social, make it awesome.